All right, 3 o'clock today is the 16th of December, and we are going to close officially with the gavel our executive session and open our regular and final meeting of the year. And all of our commissioners are here today. And let's see here. So I'm going to read off. We have some changes on the advisory committee meeting schedules. The next BIAC meeting for the airport is not January 5th. It's Thursday, January 8th. And the technical advisory committee for the airport is at January 8th. Also, that one's at 9:30 a.m. And, the BIAC's at 5:30 p.m. And the next Marina Advisory Committee meeting is Tuesday, January 13th at 6 p.m. at the Harbor Center Conference Room. All right. So we've got a couple of people on our public comment period. Looks like we'll start with April.
Okay, my name is April Barker. I live 3127 Birchwood Avenue. I was just going to request that under the BIAAC recommendations that you all, when you adopt your agenda, can remove the beaver and wildlife habitat. The group, the BIAAC group, I'm the chair for that, and we go through it's pretty difficult to get something brought to you all, and this particular item was not approved by the majority of the committee. There was some miscommunication there, so there was actually quite a bit of apprehension regarding the beaver wildlife part, quite a bit of support for the trail part, but we just haven't gotten there yet. So I'd like in some way to get this off of black and white and let that stay as something inside the committee that we're working on, but not be here on this page.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, April. And Matt Paskus?
Hi, good evening. Matt Paskus, 1151 Old Marine Drive in Bellingham, Washington. And bear with me here. Are you guys seen stuff? Let's see. Oh, I can never remember. All right. You know, there was a comment made by Dan at the last meeting regarding the BIAC. And I took offense to it, and he said that we should have shorter term limits, and two of those folks are wild guys on the committee. And so I also promise not to talk about the beaver habitat. The BIAC created a noise subcommittee. We've talked about social impact study. We've talked about abatement. We've talked about mitigation. And here are some of the facts we have to deal with as a committee. In 2005, 1 mile airport disclosure was established around the airport. In 2008, the 65 DNL contour integrated noise model expanded and exceeded in 2000. It also exceeded the 2022 INM. In 2009, employments exceeded 2050 projections. In 2009, homes were flagged by Whatcom County tax assessor as being impacted by the airport. In 2011, the 65 DNL contour integrated noise model expanded. In 2011, the 1 mile airport disclosure was breached, not bleached, by the INM that was just released in 2011. And I'm going to bring up some quotes, and these are from your commissioners. The whole idea of attracting shuttle travelers to Bellingham to use our airport, I think that would be totally unacceptable to the community. But I think Doug Smith forgot about the 50 to 93% of the Canadians. The other one that I personally received from the air, the individual that you're talking about actually purchased a home within the noise zone, and the prior owners were compensated for noise. They had the opportunity to sell their property, but they thought the noise wasn't going to be that bad. They just took a payment, and unfortunately, I think this individual didn't understand some of the commitments the prior owners made. And as you know, I received an apology letter from the port. I talked to the Christensen, who's an architect here in town. He never received any money, and that I don't understand something was totally false. It was in a radio show prior to you building the new terminal. But I want you to point out that he did say noise wasn't going to be that bad. Now, I didn't make that up. The commissioner did, so he must know that noise is a problem, and the commissioners know about it. Second, and I know you, Dan, you have this. I gave it to you. 2005, I didn't have airport. 2009, I did. Here are all the properties that are impacted by the air. And to get back to Dan's question, you know, And there was a little bit of interference in some of these things. Sometimes we feel, Dan, that the staff does interfere. Commissioners might bring up something, but it's part of the process. But I want to read something that was in the Herald, the Everett Herald. Bellingham can teach Everett a thing or two about travel. I asked Zank, this is from Julie Molstein, I asked Zank if airport neighbors complained about noise or traffic. People who live relatively close to the airport have been little more vocal, he said. Zank acknowledged, too, that the airports in a rural area are very different from upscale suburbs near Payne Field. Now, I understand that, there really shouldn't be a consideration between rural and suburban when you're dealing with a noise issue. This is the integrated noise model. We're hoping the noise subcommittee, we can actually standardize all of them so they include the 60. There is a bill in Congress that they're looking at trying to get the 55 contour under the FAA's domain. This is what you do when you blend them together. We've exceeded it. And the stuff that, with the political tug of war over tourism, we had a master plan 2011, it's different. You've seen this from the source, counter negativity about expansion. These are some of the recommendations. But good people I work with, I think I said a bad word the other day. I think I called somebody a lobbyist. So that sort of got me in hot water. So the whole noise issue is not about noise. It's about politics. It's not about politics, jobs, being a minority homeowner, dollars, tourism, having nice terminal convenience. It's about helping people. And I appreciate your time. Sorry I ran over.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
That's all we have signed up. Anybody else right now? Okay, we'll move on to our first agenda item, which is our consent agenda. Diane?
A motion to approve consent agenda items A through C.
All right, any discussion about this, gentlemen?
No.
All right.
I have nothing.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thanks, Diane. And let's see, we've got, see who's in the audience, just make sure we don't have anything that should move forward. So let's start with a presentation from Marie.
It's just going to take me a second to bring the website up for you, Commissioners. Good afternoon, Commissioners. I wanted to come before you today and address some of the concerns that you voiced here on website navigation and show you a few of the changes that we've made in order to make improvements to the website. First, I wanted to show you a couple of the different ways that you can get to agendas and minutes from the front page of the website. The first way is you can go to the agendas and minutes link on the bottom of the green box here. If you click on this link, it'll take you to an area that's known as the Agenda Center. The Agenda Center has all of our advisory groups and commission information all in one place for our users now. So in addition to the Port Commission, we also have the BIAC, the TAC, and MAC. The system defaults to showing you every available agenda, minute, and category that's available in the Agenda Center. And if you'd like to see a specific category only, you can go to where it says select a category here, uncheck all categories, and then let's say, for example, you'd like to see just BIAC information. You can just click on BIAC and then hit search. And then it'll show you only BIAC information. If you'd like to go back, you just click on all agendas. It'll take you back to the main Agenda Center area. If you'd like to view a particular agenda or particular minutes, you will just, you can see the agenda column is right here on the left, and you would just click on the date of that particular agenda. If you'd like to view minutes for a particular agenda, you would find those under the minutes column right over here. So, for example, the first meeting that has minutes is going to be the November 18th meeting. If you wanted to view the agenda for that one, you would just click on November 18th. And it will bring that up for you as a PDF file. If you'd like to view the minutes for that meeting, you can just click on this little box right here, and it'll open the minutes for you in a separate PDF file. If you'd like to view older agenda and minute information, you can view that in the Archive Center. We have a link right here to the Archive Center, where we have information on all of the older advisory committee and older Port Commission meeting agendas and minutes. If you'd like to get back to the home page from here, there are a couple different ways that you can do that. I think one of the easiest ways is going to be through this gear button that you see at the top. The gear is at the top of every single one of the pages on our website, and we've tried to put functions under the gear that we think that our users will find useful. The first one here is the home button. There are also a couple of other useful options for our users. You can print this page. You can email this page, you can access the Contact Us form, and you can also view a sitemap of all of our pages in a more directory tree format. So from here, I'm just going to go back to Home. If you'd like to view information specifically on commission meeting agendas and minutes without other advisory committees, another way you can do that is from this commission meeting information button in the blue box. So if we click on that, it will take you back to the Agenda Center, and it'll take you to information only on Port Commission agendas and minutes. So from here, I'm going to go back to the gear, and it'll take me back home. Another way that you can access that information is from the calendar module. So for example, I'm going to click on today's meeting date. It's going to take me to a calendar page specifically on today's meeting. And from here, I can click on the list of complete agendas. And this will also take me back to the Agenda Center. And from here, if I want to go home, I can just hit the gear and go back to the home page. We've also, as part of the changes that we've made for you, we've taken out the YouTube logo from the lower right blue box. The link is still the same. The link will still take our users to the YouTube channel for Port of Bellingham Commission videos, but we don't have that YouTube logo on there anymore. I also wanted to just briefly show you the footer information. The footer on every page has some of the same features as the gear. It has a home button that you can get to from every page. It has the Contact Us form. It has the sitemap. And it also has the print this page function. And once again, all this footer information is on every one of our web pages, as well as the gear button here at the top, for our users to be able to kind of quickly move around the site. And I'd be happy to answer any other questions that you might have about website navigation.
Some cool changes, Marie. Yeah. Any questions on this one, Jim?
No.
No, thanks for the update.
Well, I need more time to drink my coffee. Come on, that's something. Thanks, Marie. Appreciate that. So, obviously, I think you guys have responded to some of the concerns I have. I don't want to make this too much, about commission meeting minutes and all that. So, I got two quick questions. One, maybe a request. I love it when I see some content on our homepage that's tenant related. So, some of their successes. When I read about them in the paper and stuff, it's kind of cool, but if we could also showcase them on our website, if it's not too challenging to do that, that would be pretty cool. And then also, what you have statistics on sort of the most popular pages that users of the website have?
I do have some statistics. We looked a whole lot at our Google Analytics when we were going through the redesign process, and the statistics do change from season to season. So, for example, in the spring and summer, we get a lot more information and requests on boater information. We get more requests on the Alaska Ferry. Consistently, the top say the top 3 out of 5 Google search terms that send people to our website have been about the airport. Bellingham International Airport, Bellingham Airport, Bellingham Airport parking, in addition to information about the Alaska Ferry, the marinas, that kind of stuff.
Do you think that this layout like this would work for those people then?
Yeah, one of the things that we've done is we've included these headers across the top, so people can kind of quickly get to information that we find them consistently looking for. And then, as soon as I can clear this out, we also populated the I want to button up here at the top with information that we've consistently seen that people are looking for. So, I want to check flight status is right here. Say I'm going to get married or I'm going to have an anniversary. I want to book a meeting room or event. It's right here. I want to apply for a job right over here. That's another one we consistently see high numbers for is, job openings and opportunities at the airport, or I'm sorry, at the Port of Bellingham.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, Mary.
Thank you, commissioners.
Jumping into Harcourt? All right, Rob.
Commissioners, recently returned from a trip in Ireland where I did some due diligence on Harcourt. As you know, the developer we're talking to, the waterfront development, or at least the initial 20 acres of our waterfront. Due diligence consisted of 4 parts: legal due diligence that's ongoing with the help of Mr. Schmelik, financial due diligence, I'm going to report in detail on that, and then physical building and reference, where I talked to public officials and other development partners that Harcourt had. The legal due diligence revolves around 2 disputes that they're currently in. One was Sullivan Square in Las Vegas in 2008 during the market crash. That development was put on hold. They are starting to consider bringing that back to life. They've solved the legal aspects of those problems, and now they're looking at reinvigorating the project. The market is much better than it was in 2008, so you'll probably see that get going. The other dispute was in Jersey, the Channel Islands, and in that one, Harcourt, this is Harcourt's side of the story. We're still waiting to talk to some attorneys to verify that. According to Harcourt, they did the initial development, which entailed some office complexes, and after they got that initial development done, the local government looked at it and said, hey, we can do this ourselves, and kicked Harcourt out and decided to do the development themselves.
Hey, Rob, before you skip on the Sullivan Square, you said they managed some of the legal aspects of that. Can you just quickly run through those, what the issue was?
Yeah, go for it.
We're still doing due diligence, commissioners, but as we understand it, they had a development partner. 2008 came along. They said, we need to put this development on hold. Harcourt was the financial arm of it. The local builder said, no, you have to go forward and build the project. Harcourt said, that'd be crazy. And so they had litigation over whether they rightfully withheld investment. They indicated that they have been successful in that litigation, and now that the market's changed, they're ready to start up again and build a project.
Okay, great, thank you.
So the other aspect of the trip was to look at some financial statements. I did look at those in detail. What I looked at was a 75-company portfolio. Now, according to Harcourt, they have around 100 companies, which means 25 of the companies that they own are outside of the portfolio that I looked at. So I looked at a consolidation of those 75 companies. I found out that their assets do indeed exceed their liabilities. In 2012, they exceeded them by about $70 million. They have a current ratio of right around 1.1, and in 2012, their current liabilities increased by $80 million, but their long-term liabilities decreased by $120. So there's some refinancing going on there, but overall, their liabilities decreased by about $40 million for that period of time. I found out that Harcourt has about 929 employees in the 75-company group, and they have about 1,300 employees if you count all of their companies. Their 2015 budget reflected a cash flow of about 14% of revenue, so a fairly healthy cash flow on their revenues. During the trip, I met with a gentleman by the name of Eddie Doyle. He works for BDO, and he's the senior tax accountant for Harcourt. He gave me a lot of information about Harcourt. He was very comfortable with Harcourt's financial position. And he told me that a group called NAMA, N-A-M-A, which is an Ireland government agency, took over the loan book of a bank called AIB during the financial crisis. A majority of Harcourt's debt was with this AIB bank, so by default, NAMA now has the debt of Harcourt that was with this AIB bank. And one of the things Mr. Doyle told me was that he believed Harcourt was now in a position of financial strength to go ahead and completely refinance out of NAMA. So this is how the Ireland government dealt with their financial crisis. This was their version of the bailouts. Theirs was more of a commercial real estate crisis, and this NAMA group acquired a lot of the debt for some of these struggling developers, if you will, or these commercial properties. The good news is that Harcourt's in a position to be able to pull that debt out of that government agency and be on its own two legs. Mr. Doyle also indicated that the litigation in Jersey, while it would affect their opportunity to earn revenue in the future, it didn't result in any kind of investment write-downs or investment losses of any significance. Mr. Doyle also told me that the Harcourt pays their taxes and that they have no significant issues with government organizations. I did physical due diligence, and I went around and saw many of their assets. Dublin, I saw a couple shopping malls in that area, in addition to the Park West development. I went up to Belfast and looked at the Titanic Quarter, and then I went over to Liverpool and looked at the Stanley Dock development. I'm going to start with the Park West. I'm going to jump out of my PowerPoint here and just show you a map of the Park West area. This is just hot off of Google Maps here. So the Park West area is about a 200-acre site. It basically is inside this zone right here. And oops, I'm sorry, I don't have that quite right. That's the industrial area of the Park West site. So that is the industrial area, and then, yep. So drawing the boundaries, that's the industrial area. This is kind of the office area down in here. Apartments up in there, hotel in there, and then all of this is the industrial kind of warehousing area. And there's a small retail area in here. So that's the 200-acre Park West development. And
don't leave that. Oh, can you bring that back up?
yeah, I can. Nope, I just got rid of it.
You notice around that apartment complex, there's no parking lot,
Okay,
but nobody can see it, so it doesn't matter now.
I believe you.
It's okay.
Sorry.
There's a ring around. There you go. See that ring that looks like a concrete parking lot? Mm-hmm. That's all underground parking. So I was curious about why there was no giant parking lot around it. I think their solution here was a really nice one. It creates a tremendous amount of open space, even though it's hard, but it puts all the cars underneath and out of the, off the surface, which is really cool.
Yeah, one of the things I noticed, and I should have left the Google map up, I apologize, but the industrial area is all surface parking. Mm-hmm. And then the office park was more parking garage. The apartments, I believe, is a garage as well, and the hotel is another garage, although the hotel has some surface parking that you can see as well.
Well, if this is typical of what they would like to build, this is I think should have a great interest to us here, because I know we've traded off underground parking for some surface parking in the short term during the waterfront redevelopment. But if this is typical for them, then they would expect to be able to do this in their project.
It sounds like it is typical for them. It sounds like they surface park as long as the land's available, and then when the space becomes constrained, then they go to structured parking, which is exactly what we've been talking about for the waterfront. So you're right on.
The upper left and the residential, that's underground?
Underground parking, yes, sir.
Right, okay.
This area, this Park West, 230 acres, as you can see, 5,000 people moving about, 300 companies. This development was achieved in about a 15-year period of time, so very similar to the Barclay period. Pays 2/3 the rent of the city center. It's about 2 to 3 miles outside of the city center of Dublin. So far, they developed out 4.5 million square feet, and the area is about 50% developed. So you can see a lot of development pads available around the hotel, some around the office area, some additional ones there up above the hotel, above the apartments. And then they also have the industrial warehouse area that over time that they will creep into that area as they'll remove warehouses and gentrify it or establish either office or residential there. It's about 150 acres currently of industrial and warehousing, so that additional 150 acres is available to them.
Hey, Rob, you said that there's about 5,000 people that populate this every day?
That's correct.
And I noticed, I didn't ask this earlier, the retail and recreation, is there a grocery store near here?
More of a, kind of what we have a bellwether, a little boutique, convenience store.
Okay.
If you get a couple miles away from this, you're in a very suburban residential area, and I imagine there's full-service grocery stores there. What I did notice was lots of water and art features, and you're going to see some pictures of that. Park West is Ireland's largest business park, and that's been achieved in the last 15 years. It's a very modern-looking office. Here you've got the Aspect Hotel that you saw in the pictures, and then the residence. White Light Garden, I didn't get to see that at night. I saw it during the daytime. Obviously some recreation, sculpted gardens you're looking at there. And then here's some of the sculptures I was talking about. This, the sculpture in the lower left corner here is a very significant one in Belfast. That's this guy right here. Yeah. And then you've got the other gardens and the other water features. They're very, Harcourt is very art friendly. They like their sculptures. They like their water features. Makes for a very friendly looking development. I also went up to the Titanic Quarter up in Belfast, about 90 miles, I think, north of Dublin, about an hour-and-a-half drive. 185 mixed use, so just a little bit smaller than Park West, very similar to our development. And they've got about 1.5 million square feet complete. In my trip to the Titanic Quarter, I met with a lady by the name of Carrie Sweeney. She's with the Independent Titanic Foundation. It's a quasi-government organization that was formed with the goal of promoting tourism. They built the Titanic Museum, which you saw in the last picture here. That's the this right here is the Titanic Museum. That was built for the cost of about $77 million, with 43 coming from the government and the balance coming from Harcourt. After building that, Harcourt then had to bid on operating the museum, and they successfully did that, and they now operate the museum. One of the things Carrie Sweeney told me, she was very impressed with Harcourt. She said once Harcourt commits to something, they see it through. She said the project came in on time, under budget, and that Harcourt has done everything they said they were going to do. So she was very, very high on Harcourt. Let me show you a couple more pictures here. You're looking at the red brick building is where the Titanic ship was designed. That'll eventually be converted to a hotel. And then you're looking at some waterfront residential down there, 474 apartments. I toured one of the apartments. It was very nicely appointed. I would like to point out that Mr. John Reed is in the audience, and I believe he was the architect for these apartments and for the museum. Is that correct, Mr. Reed? Yeah, so you see Mr. Reed over there. He takes responsibility for the designs of this. Thanks for joining us today. Some industrial activities. Before I move on there, in the background here, behind the what will be the hotel, right here, oops, right here, is where the Game of Thrones is filmed. So I got to tour that and see all the sets and the props. And I guess it's HBO, but HBO has a major production facility here. They lease the buildings and the land from Harcourt. And this is where they produce the Game of Thrones. It's become kind of a niche industry in Belfast, meaning that now that they have guys that know how to do this, to build props, et cetera, they're getting more film inquiries about doing other shows besides the Game of Thrones. The Titanic Quarter does have a industrial area to it. I saw Bombardier was doing some manufacturing there, along with a number of other ship-related type facilities. about 350,000 square feet of manufacturing. We went over to Liverpool for the day. I met with a group called Liverpool Vision. This is the economic development arm of Liverpool. A gentleman by the name of Ian McCarthy also appreciated all the work he's done with Harcourt. He's had a 4 to 5 year relationship with Harcourt. He said Harcourt delivered where 2 previous developers failed. And additionally, the original deal called for Harcourt to have a grant to offset some of the cost of building this Titanic Hotel. And the Titanic Hotel is where what you're looking at is the North Warehouse here. So again, it's this building right here. That's the North Warehouse. It's now the Titanic Hotel. It is open and operating today. It is a former rum warehouse, and I believe it also stored some tobacco there. Liverpool Vision was very impressed with how quickly Harcourt was able to move to redevelop this hotel. And I would say the Titanic Hotel was about a 4-star boutique hotel, and I thought it was extremely well done. Right next to the North Warehouse, you see a building called the North Warehouse. The North Warehouse is 100,000 square feet per floor, and it's got 13 floors, giving it a 1.3 million square foot building. It's the largest brick building in the world. Their goal is to convert that to apartments. So I saw some construction activity going on while I was there, and their goal is to get that to be an apartment complex right next to their hotel. And the South Warehouse, I believe, will be apartment units as well. Some other pictures there. If you're looking at the waterway picture, the Titanic Hotel is on your left. The apartment building is on your right there. I thought this had a lot of similarities to our red brick buildings down on the GP site. You're looking at the kind of the back side of the apartment building, so the hotel would be on the other side. That's not visible to you right now. And that concludes my presentation for my due diligence trip. Any questions from the commissioners?
Go ahead. No, you got nothing? No? Jim?
No, it was well presented. Thank you.
Thanks, Rob. Pretty rosy picture, which is good. Just for the public's knowledge, anything, just jump up and say, you know what, maybe not as rosy.
I'm sorry?
Is there anything that's not as rosy?
You know, there's always things that are concerning. I've talked to the commissioners individually about this. You know, what I reported here was their 2012 financial statements. I'd like to see their 2013, and that's a question we're going to be following up with them. They weren't prepared or finished, or the audit wasn't complete on them while I was there. So, you know, that's a little concerning. They've obviously been involved in some litigation. Most developers probably have, but anytime someone's involved in litigation, it raises some flags. But overall, you know, I give them a B+ as far as developers are concerned. I think they're pretty stand-up people. I think they've got a large contingent of employees. I think 900 some odd employees in the groups I looked at. And then as I talked to people who worked for Harcourt, I found a tremendous amount of longevity. Everyone I talked to was there more than 10 years. And I talked to one individual who had been there for 22 years. And I only met 15 or 20 employees the whole time I was there. So I think the folks I did meet were very impressed with Harcourt, and they liked and enjoyed working there. And that's always a very good sign.
What experience have they had working out of country?
They own an office building in Boston. Obviously, they had the unsuccessful development down in the Channel Islands. They own a hotel in the Bahamas, in Freeport. And then they've got, you know, spots here and there where they've got an office building or a hotel or an apartment complex. And actually, the development in Liverpool, because it's out of Ireland, would be considered out of country. That's in the UK.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for going over there, Rob. I think that trip was well worth it. The litigation that they've been involved in doesn't bother me, and the fact that they own and operate their own facilities, I think, is a big plus. One question that came up in our closed session, and maybe John Reed can answer it, we didn't see anything in the way of a fishing fleet over there. Is there fishing in that area? Is there commercial fishing in the areas that Rob visited, either up in the in the Belfast area or even down in the Parkway, anywhere.
Just general area.
There's not essentially in Belfast itself, it'd be an area outside of Belfast, maybe 30, 40 miles away. There's fishing in Ireland. Fishing in Ireland has declined quite a bit because of European rules and restrictions and the decline of the fishing stock, Atlantic salmon, and really severe competition from Spanish trawlers and the like. So when the fishing has sort of reclined into small ports away from the big ports, where Belfast still retains an element of commercial shipping and ferries and so forth, but even that is moving further out to sea, because that land is becoming more valuable and used for urban generation, new industries, and what is the future. So fishing as such has moved into quieter and smaller ports and pockets rather than the main areas of both Belfast and Dublin.
Thank you.
Sir, I'm glad you said something. I failed to mention it, but one of the things that I was extremely impressed about was that Harcourt does own everything they've built. Every asset that I looked at, they were operating it and they had developed it, and that's unusual. That's an unusual model, and we really appreciated that.
Something else that kind of put it into perspective was the fact that one of the big developers around here, of course, is the Barclay Company, and they've done our Barclay Village. Looking at assets of the two corporations, this and the number of employees, Harcourt is about 6 times the size of Barclay. So that kind of gives you a feeling of the type of company we're working with here.
That's it. That's it. That's it. All right. Thanks so much, Rob. Appreciate your time on that. I see a little BLI report now.
Commissioners, for those who don't know me, I'm Dennis Partlow. I'm the Airside Operations Coordinator for the airport, and one of my duties is handling the noise complaints for the airport. So I'm here today to give you a report on the noise from 2012 to 2014, and there's a lot of information, so feel free to ask questions as we go. I'm doing this report, excuse me, I'm here to tell you why we're doing the report, what the complaint process is, what are some of the comparisons that we have over the years. I'll give you a summary, and then some of the changes we've made. I'll go over the noise abatement procedures and some of the stuff I've changed on that, and then how those changes have helped us. The reason we're doing the report is basically to give the commissioners data on the noise and where we're at, and to help the advisory committees at the airport, and to give the public some information about what type of noise complaints we're getting. Now, this report I did is solely based off the complaints that we received. There's no other influence in it at all. And also, I want to compare the 3 years, or show you the comparisons of the 3 years, and show you which way we're going with it. The process is you can go online on the port's website, and you can actually pull up an aircraft complaint form and fill it out, and it'll come to me directly. Or you can call in, leave a voicemail, email, or you can talk to me in person. To me, the best way is a website, and that seems to be the #1 area that people use. Once I receive the complaint, I'll investigate it. I'll talk with the tower, find out who the aircraft owner is. If I get the information fast enough, I can figure it out pretty quick. And then I'll log the complaint. We log it based off the geographic location, the time and date, the operation and aircraft type. So there's some things that I track there. The operational type basically is it a noise complaint? Is it an activity? Did they take a certain route that's not normal? Did they do something unsafe? Or is there something else? Is there another reason? Maybe they dropped fuel or something. There could be another reason. And then I base it off the type of aircraft. Is it a commercial aircraft, general aviation aircraft, helicopter, military? That really helps in knowing who it is. Our traffic counts for last year, or for the last 3 years, were roughly around 66,000. 2014, I could only go through October, but it looks like it's going to come out to about the same as 2013. So we'll have about 66,000 operations this year. And so that averages out to about 180 operations a day. It's quite a few. If you notice on the right, most of our submissions, like I said, are from the website. It's easy to use. It works great. It helps me out a lot. I get a lot more information that way than somebody leaving me a voicemail. On the left, the total number of complaints. If you notice in 2014, it's gone up, but I'll explain that and you'll see why it's gone up. In 2012, we had additional 337 counts that were done by a Cliffside neighbor. He added up all the early turnouts. I didn't put that in there because it would throw the comparisons way off. Because you'll notice in 2013 and 14, he only did about 13 complaints, or 30 complaints, sorry. The number of complaints relative to the number of operations, it's about 0.5%. It's really low, but that's about the average for all 3 years. I break it down in geographical areas. Either it's from the north of the airport, at the airport, or surrounding the airport. The Bellingham South, and then Lummi Island. I have areas of complaints. I have a radius map I'll show you in a minute. Over the 3 years, we've had 4 complaints within, or 4 households in 1 mile. In 3 miles, we had 47, 5 miles, 20, 5 miles plus 30 households. So that's 101 households in 3 years out of 79,000 households in Whatcom County as of 2013. You notice in 2014, we had 31 households that complained. So this kind of gives you an idea. The inner circle, the small circle, is 1 mile. The next circle is 3 miles, and then the outer circle is 5 miles. So outside of that, there's about 26 households that complained outside of the last blue circle there. So if you compare the years out, I think 2014 was probably our best year. Helicopter activity has quieted down, I hope. The activities, people aren't so concerned about activities as they are the noise. And military has gone down. We haven't had as much military activity. So if you compare the years and the time of day, 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. is mainly our most activity. That's where most of the activity happens. And then if you go by month, for some reason, January is big in 2014, and October is big in 2012. I have no idea why. It's just worked out to be that way. So if I give you a summary, like I said, the total number of complaints is 0.5% of the total operations for the airport. The households have decreased over the years. Total number of complaints, 84% of those were commercial aircraft. It's the MD-80s. And 87% of the complaints are coming from the north of the airport. GA aircraft and activity complaints have decreased. And here's something. Out of the 362 complaints in 2014, 276 of them came from 2 households. So it leaves about 86 other complaints. Not that those 276 aren't important, because they are. Some of the things I've done, or we have done at the airport to try to reduce the complaints, I've worked on the noise abatement procedures. I haven't changed the procedures. I've just enhanced some of the areas on the map, and I'll show that to you. I've been doing outreach to the pilots. I've been going to WPA meetings, EAA, any way I can get the word out there. We've been putting signs up on the gates and in the general aviation terminal. We put some new signage out on the airfield at the north end of the airport, south end, and that midfield, which is really helping. And some things I'm still working on is visiting the community. One thing I've been doing is going out to the people's homes and actually talking directly to the homeowner, which has really helped. Attending meetings. I've attended Cliffside's meeting. I haven't attended Birchwood yet. Master plan meetings, outreach to pilots. I want to do more of that. It's all about educating those pilots. It really helps a lot. Giving the flight instructors handouts I can give to new pilots, so the new pilots will know right off the bat, which areas to stay away from. And the biggest thing that's really going to help us a lot is Allegiant is transitioning over to the Airbus 319s and 320s. So they're a lot quieter than the MD-80s. I think that's really going to help a lot. So on the noise abatement procedures, what I did is noise-sensitive areas in red were yellow. I made them red. That makes it stand out a little bit more. And then I squared up the corners. I'm asking the pilots to square up their corners as they come in instead of cutting over. They're doing a lot of that cutting over in some of the Cliffside neighbors. So we're really working hard on that. The tower's been a lot of help me do that. So since I've implemented the changes, you'll notice from August to October and every year, we went from 180 complaints down to 29. I think it's what we're doing is working. It's helping. And that's about it. Hopefully I gave you enough information. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer them the best I can.
You remarked about the sound being, or the noise being more of a problem in January, I think, compared to, what was it, September? Or?
October. I don't know why, though. We're not sure why. It just
with the density of air, it's colder, more absorbing.
Could be. There's a lot of factors. Wind has a lot to do with it. The wind makes that noise travel a lot further. So.
Yeah, I think you're looking at the cause of that would be primarily weather related to temperature of the air, and
sure.
et cetera.
Do you get many complaints from air activity that wasn't at our airport but bothered people?
We do. We do get that, and we also get. I should mention we get complaints about other things that aren't even aircraft. I went to some folks' house on Aldridge Road. She kept telling me I can hear those planes doing run-ups, and I told her they weren't. And so I actually went over to their house and listened, and it was actually the traffic from Bakerview. And her husband agreed with me that's what it was. So there's other things other than the aircraft noise that people are complaining about. They just think of the aircraft right away.
So. Are the complaints from Lummi Island for commercial or general aviation?
It's mainly commercial. Yeah. They fly right over there.
Yeah. Thank you.
So 87% of the complaints are coming from the north.
Correct.
Right. And Dan and I, Mr. Robbins, were talking just before the meeting, and I understand that the Planning Commission is having a conversation, the Bellingham Planning Commission is having a conversation about more housing on the north end.
Well, they're talking about annexing the airport area into the city and put more housing in that area. And with the complaints we get now, that seems like we're just adding to the fire.
Possibly, yeah. Definitely want to follow up on that.
Yeah, because Ferndale is where the aircraft turn for final, and that's why they're getting so much noise. They're like final destination or final approach.
That growth has got to be really considered for sure. What you're saying.
What about complaints from Ferndale residents?
There's one person who complains a lot. I don't get a lot from Ferndale. There's like 3 people. In the county in 2014, we only had 6 households
Okay, because I wandered around up in there, right underneath the flight path where they, all the planes come through over Ferndale, and it didn't seem to be that loud up on the hills, especially where you think it might be a little bit louder. But
I think some people just notice it more. I had a complaint the other day where it woke some people up at 3:40 in the morning. Legion came in late, but I only had 2 people complain about it. So I don't know. It's some I don't know. Some people's houses are more sound, or if some people can sleep through it. I don't know.
all right, is that it, guys? Sue? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
She had a question.
Oh, I'm sorry, Elizabeth. That's right. Quick question.
No, there's 31 households total in 2014. Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks, Dennis.
No, there's just a handful.
Thanks for catching that. I even wrote it down and totally forgot. Sorry about that, Elizabeth. I wrote your name down and I forgot to call on you. All right, Mr. Zhang.
Yeah, good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm just here to introduce Mr. Weber. Mr. Weber is a member of the BIAC, and the BIAC committee has made a recommendation to bring forward to this commission a topic that I'll let Mr. Weber address. So, Mr. Weber.
Well, this is a treat to come before the commission and not have that 3-minute bell going to ding in my brain. Does that mean I get to talk all the time? You might want to. First, I would like to thank all of you for 2 things. One, for the web page changes. They're great. And I'm saying that because I know I've been had complaints in the past, and I think that the effort and time you put into it is well served. And I tested it. I usually use emails for sending in noise complaints, but I just Googled Bellingham Airport noise complaint form, popped right up. So I think that's really an advantage. And the second thing, to thank the Commission for the energy put into forming this new neighborhood, primarily neighborhood advisory group, so that you could get input not only from those parts of the county that have direct economic benefit, but also from those parts of the neighborhoods in the county that bear the burden of the what I call adverse effects, but some other people might disagree with that. So anyway, thanks for doing that. We're getting going, I think, and this is the first of, I hope, what will be a series of recommendations from primarily the neighborhoods about how the Commission might move ahead in making our community, the neighborhoods and the airport, the best place that we can live. And I'm glad to hear you talking about integration with the long-range plans, the comprehensive plans. Both the city and the county are coming up, and we as a committee are already talking about how we could have the airport be more aggressively involved with creating a long-range plan, not only just for this airport, but for the community, so that we can all get the best that we can expect. But today, what I'm doing is bringing a request that the committee has for better information about the nature and extent of noise associated with airport operations. And the first, I want to just go sideways for a moment. I was surprised because I've always assumed you got an airport, the airport's responsible for the noise. And that is not generally shared amongst all of staff in the airport. There's some staff that think the noise associated with airports is the responsibility of the pilots. And I've also heard from another staff member that, well, Bellingham takes the lead of the FAA in noise questions, and that's where we get our guidance. But I hope that all of you have gotten the information I sent in the last week that clearly shows that the noise outside of the magic 65 DNL that I hope we all are aware of because it's been in our news the last little while. The noise outside of the 65 DNL is the responsibility of the operator of the airport. And I guess in that case, it's the Port of Bellingham. And so I'm hoping that we can go ahead with that clarity, that everybody acknowledges and recognizes that adverse effects of noise associated with airport operations, unless it falls in the contour lines of the 65 DNL, which makes it a federal responsibility, falls in the lap of the airport operators. So if we can go ahead with that, then one of the questions that I've had and others have had is that how serious is this noise thing? And there's a wide variety of responses when you ask people in port and airport staff about is noise an issue? I hear it all the way. Well, one staff member decided totally to duck the question and said, well, the answer to the question of whether or not there is an airport impact of airport noise rests with the Commission. They are the ones that have to tell you whether we do or do not have a noise. Another response, and you get this quite commonly, is there's only a very small minority of vocal complainers. I heard one person say, there's 20 of them, that's all, no more. Well, we know that that's not the case. But the thing is, and the point I want to make is that we don't have a level playing field of information in order for everybody to say, yep, we have noise in this area, and we have certain levels of noise that we accept responsibility for. And so that's the basis of the motion that comes from primarily the support of almost all of the BIAAC, requesting the Commission to establish and initiate, with an emphasis on initiation, a noise study that will tell us where the noise is and how much it is, and allow us all to talk in a way that we have a generally agreed on data set that we are dealing with. Okay, so that's the notion, the motion, and I would like to emphasize that it's an initiation. You have a response from airport staff saying that if we want to know what's going on with noise, it's going to be a $200,000 or $300,000 or $400,000 or $500,000 job. That, of course, is not going to happen. We recognize that the airport currently is needing borrow money in order to make its annual budget. It doesn't have a lot of flex to put big studies in. So the question is, in initiating it, is what can we do in order to start addressing the noise issues? And there are a lot of things we can do. I break the noise into different categories. The first is a noise associated with health. We know from the literature that any noise over that's higher than the 50 DNL contour line has adverse health effects. So health, people who are living in that kind of noise is an issue. Unfortunately, we're going to have to go and get that information. I asked one of the airport staff at one of the airport master plan meetings, can't we get the 50 DNL contour line put on these maps that somebody is paying for? And the answer was no. That's not the interest nor the concern of the FAA. So unfortunately, we are going to have to figure out where that 50 DNL line is and acknowledge and recognize that there are health effects inside of it, and that should be an area that we really work on, making sure there aren't residences in there so that people are influenced by that. The second thing I'm really concerned about, and these are personal concerns now, not necessarily committee concerns, is the education. We have 2 elementary schools living right close to the airport. We know from the literature that dB levels more than 70 interfere with learning. And I know there's a disagreement there. Some people say, no, there's no problem. I think we need to look at that and see whether our current airport operations are creating a learning issue in the schools, those two schools. And then the third, the whole category we call annoyance. Who's annoyed by noise? That's one that I would like to see us look at, and there's a way we can do that easily too. You have the BIAAC now. We're plugged into the neighborhood. Let's go back one step before we make the suggestion and comment on the noise report that you just heard. The fact that noise complaints got down, in my mind, is a reflection of what we call it, just observer fatigue. At some point, when nothing happens, when you send in the complaint, you just say, and that's mostly what happened. Dennis told you that 2 years ago, he didn't speak to me by name, but I said, I'm going to be really serious about this. I'm going to take a block of time and I'm going to record every one of those GA planes that fly over the Cliffside neighborhood and make a record of it. And mostly for that, I got the title of a statistical outlier with an emphasis on the liar part of it. You know, you give up. Nothing happened, and so I just gave up. And Dennis said, helicopter observations are going down, and he looked over at me. It's because I just don't bother putting any information in any longer. Nothing happens. Without a response, observations go away. So I am suggesting that the cheerier look that you're getting by looking at those numbers is a reflection that there's no response, there's not much action, there's no action to speak of. And I shouldn't say no action, because I know that within the small confines of the noise abatement procedures that the airport has been doing what it can do without changing that. But there's not enough to make any changes so far. So there are some things that we can do, and I would be the first to say we don't want to spend a lot of money hiring airport consultants to come up here and tell us something that we can figure out ourselves with just a little bit of effort. So those are my thoughts about why I think the Commission should support the initiation of noise studies so that we can get a data set that allows us to not have to disagree over our numbers. I say we have a problem, we got a bunch of people upset, and somebody said, no, there's only 20. We ought to be able to say with some clarity what that number is. And so that's why this BIAC has supported, very, very strongly supported this request to the Commission that we start a noise study that shows the extent of and the intensity of the noise that we have. So, yes, questions?
Yes.
Jim?
Listening to Mr. Partlow was talking about types of aircraft and how that can make such a difference, and I know I talked to Mr. Zank about that, and there's going to be Allegiant Airlines is getting out of the M80, right? And that's when? Maybe this spring?
Allegiant is in the process of phasing out the MD-80s from Bellingham right now, actually. So we have one A319 parked on the ramp, and they are bringing in 2 more and phasing out the MD-80s by the end of February of 2015.
Well, in your opinion, that was going to make a considerable difference, right?
That will make a considerable difference, yeah.
Hey, Dan, before you sit down, so if you do the computer modeling that was already done for the master plan, you can just plug in whatever kind of aircraft. Is that correct? So if you wanted to redo that with the 319s and 320s in there, that can be done pretty straightforward?
That has been done with the INM modeling through the master plan update process.
Okay.
If you recall, when URS was up here talking to the Commission last time, they showed the noise evaluation. They showed the 2011 contour, which was the baseline year contour, the 2016 contour, which actually included the phasing out of the MD-80s and included the A319s, and there was a slight reduction in the contour line. because of the new aircraft. And then they also showed the 2030 contour, which obviously had the A319s and the newer equipment in it.
Okay, thank you.
I can just add a little personal anecdote, Jim. You know, I stand at my house and listen to the MD-80s go off from a 1-6 departure, and it's a minute and a half where if you're with another person, you can't talk. I mean, there's just no conversation. When one of the 737s takes off, that time is reduced to a minute. So I think there will be benefits, but I sure don't think we should keep our fingers crossed it's going to solve all the problems.
30 seconds better.
Yeah.
Hey, Bert, since you're on that topic right now, what about the landings? The 737s, it's been a while since I was over there, but 737 seem to be relatively quiet on landing, not so much the MD-80s, but what's your experience with conversations when they're landing?
Yeah. You know, so I live in Cliffside, and so we don't get as many landings as we do takeoffs, and I can't say like what that is.
Well, but they land somewhere on the airport.
Well,
I know they're landing from the north, but
well, yeah.
but it's not as. But you can stand. I think you can stand outside and have a conversation when those planes land, the 737s.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't say. I don't know.
Well, Bert, first of all, I admire your tenacity. You've been on this noise issue for as long as I've known you, and you're also very respectful in someone disagreeing with you, and I really like that. It's nice to debate somebody on issues and leave where there's no animosity, and I thank you for that. One clarification, you said DNL of 70. Is that for schools?
No, DB. Yeah, they don't use DNLs for those kind of measurements. You just use a dB level.
Okay.
So, and that's something we could get pretty easily, right? We have a portable noise monitor. You
Just
could go
wanted
put
that
it there.
clarification. And to do a study, there's two things I like to know. Number one, costs. And it's kind of nebulous on what costs are. I've heard all over the board. So maybe the staff could talk about costs, or someone before I want to okay it. I would want to know what the costs are. And number two, what's the end game? If 50 DNLs are a problem and there's 30 homes in that area, what's the end game that you would want for those 30 homes? I've heard all over the board, from insulate my home to buy my home to let me stay here but pay me to pay my mortgage, everything under the sun. So I would kind of like to know what your end game, or anyone's end game, that requests that we do this. What would an end result be? Best case, worst case?
Okay, so first, just for clarification, we're talking about programs that would be the responsibility of the Port of Bellingham. The FAA would not be involved with that, because we're outside the 65 DNL line.
Correct. Anything inside the 65 has been taken care of.
Yeah, and that, the first is to know how many are affected, if any. And the second is to use that information in planning land use for that area. You don't want the city to come in and put residential zoning in such an area if we have that. So it's in part to look at a long range. What do you do with a short range? I'm not sure what the ethical response is. It's a tough one, isn't it? If somebody, it's hard, it's hard to say if you have somebody that's affected, whether you should step up. I think mostly it's a knowledge base, getting the metrics so that we can look to the future and not create problems like we have in the past. Definitely avoid what happened in 1990 when the port jumped ahead and all of a sudden realized there was a $10 million liability that had to be dealt with. So if we had that kind of information, then I think what it would do is allow us to look at current land use plans and look into the future and make sure that we don't cause problems that could bring liability to the port. Because that's the hidden part that doesn't get talked about, but it's there. If you're responsible, you're also liable. And there are court cases that have weighed in favor of people who have been damaged by airport noise.
And what mitigation are you looking at?
What mitigation for the set we're talking about, the 50 to 65?
Whether there's a litigation or
yeah.
a settlement, what is the end game that you're looking for?
I'm looking, I just go back and say, I'm looking for the mistakes to not be continued on to the future. That's what the best is. I don't know what you do about the present.
And I assume the mistake was enlarging the airport is what you think was the mistake, or is that what you're referring to as a mistake?
Oh, no, I'm glad the airport is where it is. And what I am concerned about is...
What mistake was made?
To not be aware of the consequence that these impacts are occurring. The mistake is to not have the information. We have this kind of uncertainty about the nature of noise. They say you can go into a camp that says there's no noise out there that's worth being responsible for, or you can talk to people that are just beside themselves with the effects of noise. Well, there's no way of knowing that.
Where you stand in an issue depends on where you sit. I can see, I'll give it to you that airports make noise. There's no question in my mind, and the closer you are, the worse it is. Mm-hmm. But what mitigation can we do? I mean, we track all these. I think, from a commission standpoint, I want to be a good neighbor. I want to do the right thing, but I'm not sure what that is.
Okay, so
and I'm not sure the cost to find out what that is.
What we could do right off is do a wholesale revamping of our noise abatement procedures, and that might bring relief to those people within the 50 to 65, or it definitely would bring relief to those people that are in the category of being annoyed. So that's one thing we can do that has relatively moderate, if at all, costs associated with it. Though doing that would be one step that we could take. And again, to have the knowledge base so that you and I can take something that we disagree about and know that there is information that we both accept as being valid. And I think that's the important thing. That gives you a better balanced position to decide whether or not you should be spending port dollars to solve a problem. And it gives me an ability to have more confidence in your opinion, because you're dealing from data. You're dealing from a knowledge base rather than just, well, maybe that's what it is. So it's not enough just to say, oh yeah, there's noise out there. If we're going to respond to it and be responsible for it, we need to have some sense, some good sense, some accurate sense of what those numbers are. And it does not have to cost $600,000.
How much do you think it would cost?
I don't know.
Commissioner?
Yeah.
Mr. Weber, if you don't mind, just like to interrupt for just a moment. Little attitude on here. April Barker is our chair of the BIAC committee, and she would like to just make a comment.
I'm concerned that this might, as in the committees, you could have this conversation all day long. It's very difficult. It's not an easy answer. The airport, we all knew, grew a lot faster than we expected it to. We're dealing with a master plan with the effects of the new growth. We kind of didn't really get a chance, as far as the community is concerned, to deal with that growth that exploded so quickly. Yes, there's wonderful things that have come from the airport, and I don't know many of our members that would like the airport to just go away. I'd like to thank Bert for championing this, because as you can see, it's a very difficult conversation. Mitigation, I don't know what you can do for mitigation, but I do know that there are comprehensive plans going right now in county and in city. Currently, the airport sits in a UGA for Bellingham City, but is not acknowledged in their comprehensive plan, and we all know that that really should be happening, but it's not even on the agenda for that to happen. I think when real estate transactions, you guys get a lot of people coming in here and saying, I built a house and now I'm upset because there's noise, but there's no information out there for people purchasing a home to know where the noise is and how they're going to be affected by it, you know. So I think when we can get some data points, if we could get some contours that go out a little bit, if anything, it's just literature to help people understand in their real estate transactions and their building transactions and in our city and our county's comprehensive plans of how we can appropriately build. It doesn't mean that we can't infill around the airport, but it means we can do it a lot smarter with different types of construction and with people who are understanding what they're getting themselves into in certain areas. I think it could be part of a step to make this airport really blend into our community more instead of all this anecdotal information of things that we just don't understand. You know, your January influx might be, that was right after we did a huge campaign to help people understand that they could complain. And it went kind of well, and then people just said, I don't want to sit and fill this thing out all the time. So it's kind of hard to say noise is only for those people that are taking the time to go online and complain or call. And I think that this just gives us some really great data so that you guys, it would kind of be more irresponsible not to do it, because right now you don't really have anything to say. We understand that this happens. So when somebody buys a home, and you had this published data out there and say, well, you bought a home, and we've been publishing this since 2014, and it's right here in this major part, even though FAA is not taking care of it, and we're saying we're not going to take care of it. But you see what I'm saying? It just gives us more valuable metric to move forward with it. So I would just hope that we don't put Bert too much on I think staff is probably the one to answer a lot of questions about budgeting. And again, it's really important to acknowledge that this group was put together with the blessing of you all, and each one of us is representing a large constituency. It's always a difficult word for me. So when you get something like this coming forward, it's the committee that you got, and it's the majority of that committee that's representing a huge body of people that is saying this is something we really want and need. So thank you.
Off the hook as well?
Yeah, I'm not going to put you on the spot. And actually, I probably could have saved you earlier, but I want to respect Dan's line of questions there. So for me, an example that our responsibility to the community at large with the noise at the airport, it's a real simple example in my mind. So about 3 years ago, the shipyard was doing some, over in Fairhaven, was doing some work at night, overnight. Great for them. I'm glad they're busy. That's awesome. They were making a lot of noise and getting some complaints here about the noise overnight. And the staff here went and talked to them and said, hey, can you be a little quieter? And they responded. So I think that even in a very simple case like that, the people that work here and those of us, I think, who are trying to represent our community up here recognize that sometimes our tenants make noise and that there are some things we can do about it. So this is a hard one, no doubt, but I don't think we should just walk away from it and say, well, FAA says 65 is our limit. We don't have to therefore, go beyond that. So to me, the first and only question that has to be answered is, does the commission want to look further than the 65 DNL? And if we don't, then the entire conversation's kind of moot. But if we do, then we have to look at what the budget would be. Is it a computer model? Is it something more significant? And then decide where we might do mitigations or not. So that's kind of the first question that I think we can tackle next year. Probably hopefully a January agenda, have a good conversation about, do we want to continue on this? Do we want to go look out to the 50 DNL? Do we want to go to 35? I don't know, but I think the commission has to have a conversation to decide if that's what we want to do first.
I think when you're comparing, talking about Whatcom County, you can draw circles all over the place and as big as you want going some direction. I mean, if that's what you're looking for. But the regulations are such by FAA as to where that mitigation stops. And it would seem to me that, like Mike mentioned, and same with Mr. Robbins, that we need to be concerned about inside the lines and how, if you start outside them, I guess I'm trying to say that where do you stop? If you're going to go out to 65 or 70 or 75 and somebody over in the far corner of the county complains, It just seems like it's going to be a difficult issue to handle that.
Yeah,
You know,
it will always be a.
Does that make any sense? I don't know if that made any sense.
That reminds me of a conversation we had a lot in my geography courses. And what you find is that eventually you have to stop somewhere. So it's either
there's gotta be
a
a
body of water or a mountaintop or a geopolitical boundary. But, I don't disagree. We have to decide.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much how it goes. It seems. It's a difficult issue. Gosh, I remember one meeting we had, and a lady was up talking. She must have talked for 15 minutes and going on about noise, and the last sentence out of her mouth was, and we just finished our home 2 years ago. And I thought,
That's a little tough.
I mean, gosh almighty.
Yeah. If that had been prevented, it wouldn't have cost very much.
Yeah, it just seems like the lying's the tough part, isn't it?
Well, I'd like to know how we get that information to that new homeowner who's moving in by the airport or building a home by the airport. Do you really think they're going to come read our master plan for the airport when they first come to Bellingham? I know it's available, but will they read it?
If that.
Sorry, as a commission and being a good neighbor, in my opinion, like having purchased several properties in Bellingham, it's if you can then direct me, and then that was my responsibility. It's not your job to knock on everybody's door and tell them, but when the information is available and the metrics are there, it's public information, and people can go out that are really concerned or know, and real estate agents can become better educated to help people understand. And then the community itself and their comprehensive plans can figure out, gosh, these are highly impacted areas. How do we avoid them becoming these, without a lack of a better term, a ghetto-ish type situation? What things do we do as a community to embellish the areas to make it so people will still want to live there? And we don't continue blindly and infilling and doing things in the county and the city without really understanding that impact. So I don't know how much mitigation you will have to do or be responsible for, but it's just public information is out there. And then you can say, as a good neighbor, it's on our website, and I hope you guys will look at it.
Yeah, or you can get it on the title.
Commission, I'm going to recommend to keep us moving here. It sounds like we've got some staff work needs to be done here. We need to come up with some options for you, I think. Everything from doing nothing to a full-blown study, maybe a minor survey in between. We need to develop some options and put a budget to that and come present that to you to continue this discussion in, say, January. Does that work?
How about this? Are you going to meet with me next week?
Yes, sir.
Are you going to meet with Dan next week?
Yes, sir.
And Jim next week?
I try to get you all three. Yep.
All right. So how about if each
Better
of us
not meet with one without the other.
Well, I don't know if you guys are leaving. I don't know. How about if we put it on our personal agendas to just sort of give you some feedback on what we'd like to see, and so you don't just kind of spend too much time on it, and then we'll have a good conversation in January.
I appreciate that. That'd be great.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bert.
Thank you, Bert.
Thank you, Bert, yes.
And thank you, April. Can you extend our thanks to the BIAC? Thank you.
And April, you do a good job of chairing that committee.
Excellent work.
You really have. It's a hard job. It really is. You can tell just from the dialogue today. And thank you.
Quick before we move on, so on our agenda we had the conversation about the beaver and wildlife habitat areas. Is the BIAC going to tackle the habitat area, trail area issue? What's the?
There's currently a social subcommittee that's trying to look at things that could help. We use the word bringing the airport into the fabric of the community and how that could help connectivity. As I said, that particular proposal was brought and had some flaws as far as the committee was concerned. So we'll continue to work on that, and hopefully we'll be here in January bringing you some ideas of some of the things we think we could do to really bring that airport is to something we're already proud of it, of course, but even more connected to it and kind of using the area around it more.
So are you thinking right now, I know the Coast Millennium Trail is supposed to be going through there. Is this part of the sort of that kind of concept?
We're communicating with the Whatcom Regional Trail, which was it? Yeah, so we're working with them to see, but they're super excited to hear that this committee would be interested in continuing a support to doing a trail network and some other things. So we'll do our best to get more to you on that and not just noise.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Just one quick remark to Bert. I really appreciated your materials that you gave us to read in regards to the official regulations from the FAA regarding noise and regarding if airport operators are. Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. Thank you.
Looks like we have an action item. All right.
We do.
Ms. McLean.
A motion to authorize the executive director to enter into advertising contracts with terms no more than 1 year for advertising at the Bellingham International Airport, consistent with the Bellingham International Airport advertising policy.
Good afternoon again, Commissioners. I have the privilege to speak to you twice today. And for my second presentation, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the airport advertising program that we've been working towards hopefully implementing very soon at the airport. We're planning to offer multiple different advertising opportunities that would include digital screen advertising, physical ad space, and sponsorship opportunities. And we're working on a range of different price points so that businesses of all different sizes will be able to participate. You can see the visual you have on your screens here. This photo is an example of one of the digital screens that would be available for advertising. It's adjacent to one of the Halibut Henry's locations out at the airport. This one is an example of a physical ad display space on top of the baggage claim carousel. And this one here is an example of a space that would be allocated for another physical display location. Examples would be like a trade show display, A-frame banner, standalone advertising of that nature. I want to stress that we were going to work with our advertisers to ensure that we have a positive traveler experience for the people that are traveling in and out of the airport as we implement the advertising program. All advertising must be aesthetically consistent with the airport's design. We're going to make sure that it doesn't interfere with any airport operations and also doesn't impact or interfere with any of our safety guidelines at the airport. As I mentioned, we don't currently have an advertising program at the airport, but once we're able to enter into these advertising contracts, we have between 25 and 30 companies that are on a waiting list to receive information on an advertising program as soon as we can implement this. And this list really has a broad range of different types of companies in it, everything from small local businesses in the downtown Bellingham core to more regional, larger companies, and even a few Canadian companies. So once we're able to implement this, we expect revenue of between $10,000 and $25,000 a month to support airport operations. And I just wanted to end by saying that we're really excited to be able to offer this opportunity soon, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have about the program.
Well, I'm impressed, really, and it seems like doesn't seem like it is a good source of revenue, for sure. And I think it gives a wide range of pricing categories, and that it would be an attractive addition to the terminal. I really think it would be, and I know at other airports I've seen advertising, a fair amount of it, and if done right, and sometimes flashing off and on and so on, that good.
And we don't plan to have any strobe lights as part of our advertising.
No dancing or anything, or
A revolving door. I also think it's great that the port's taken this on to create some revenue. I'm glad we're doing it. That's super. And also, in reading through the material, I see that there's some private advertising agencies that we can also work with in it, so we're not taking it all away from the private sector, which I think is great. In reading the material, I don't remember seeing anything on, is there a different rate for a nonprofit than
Under the draft rate structure, there is not a nonprofit rate at this time.
Okay.
One of the things that we are doing is we're working with the Tourism Commission so that we'll have a mix of advertising, tourism information for travelers, and art as part of the mix of new visuals.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
I'm going to turn it back on. I was eating some of Diane's mints, a little crunchy. One comment, I know we've already talked about this one, it just popped up, I noticed in the vehicle display area over by the ticketing part of the airport. So I'm going to make this pitch, and I think Rob might be very interested in following up on this one personally. I think it would be awesome if we had, right out of the gate, all our local bike manufacturers could bring in some bikes and prop them up in there, and we can showcase. But that also sort of leads back to the point that we had when we had an art committee. I think we should take every opportunity, even to the point of creating a hierarchy of local first, whenever possible, so that we're pitching Whatcom County first and then the broader region after that. So if there's any chance to get as much local advertisement about whatever's going on in Whatcom County, and that's our priority, then I think we're going to be just fine. But and it is kind of nice that it's going to help Dan's budget a tiny little bit.
Personally, I think there ought to be a bumper sticker slapped on every bumper that leaves.
There you go.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's what we'll spend the first $25,000 on.
Did you want that bumper sticker to say, Commissioner?
I can't share that in public.
Anything further? No. All right. Thank you, Marie, for that. And
Thank you,
we'll take a
Commissioners.
vote here. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Awesome. Thanks again, Marie.
Thank you.
And now a little facilities action.
Mr. Hildesheimer.
Authorize the executive director to execute professional services agreement, amendment number 7 with Berger A. Bam for final design services to complete the design and permitting for the Harris Avenue Pier Replacement Project in the amount of $487,500 with a 10% contingency of $48,750 for a total authorized amount of $1,090,400.
All right, Mr. Hergesheimer.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. This PSA amendment is number 7 in the list of PSA amendments for Berger ABAM. Starting back as early as 2007, there was some preliminary work done on the investigation and a planning study on what to do and how to do a redevelopment in the wooden portion of the pier. And then in PSA Amendment 3 was actually approved approximately 13 months ago to basically take this preliminary concept design up to a permit level, 60% design effort, which included the nationwide 38 permit for the cleanup in that area. So this is very much a cleanup-oriented project with this pier being reconstructed, demolished and reconstructed as part of that process. So then there were several other PSA amendments for just administrative amendments, moving some tasks around within the initial PSA. And so now I'm before you with this PSA amendment number 7, which takes the project from the permit submittal stage, and the permit was submitted December 8th of this year, just about a week ago, for the JARPA, the Joint Aquatic Resource Project application, and all the subsequent documents that make up the JARPA submittal. To take that to the full design level, which means bid-ready documents and continuing to provide permit support for the nationwide 38 cleanup permit. And it's important to understand that the nationwide 38 cleanup is being divided into 3 phases. The first phase being around this area that's shown on this first map. Zone right in here. That's the pier area, and that's the cleanup area as well. And the cleanup area is divided into 3 segments. The first segment or phase is in the area of the pier that we're discussing tonight. The second area, the second and third phases are the remaining part of the site, which would be pretty much this area here in yellow. As shown in this area here is the next two phases. So, but tonight we're looking at the phase 1 cleanup for the area surrounding the pier. The scope of the work includes getting all the way through the final design, including the coordination with the Puglia Shipyard and All-American Marine, who are definitely affected by this project. Is basically we are operating in the front door of one of their 3 facilities for Puglia, so we're very cognizant of the impact and trying to mitigate the impacts as much as possible for this cleanup and pier project. The scope of the construction was under debate for a while on deciding whether to demolish the carpenter shop pier or to retain the carpenter shop and just rebuild the pier. The issue came down to basically getting a better cleanup performed if the carpenter shop pier is removed as well. It provides then full cleanup for all the areas under the carpenter shop pier area and all the area under the wooden pier section. So the proposed project then is to demolish the pier and the carpenter shop pier, perform the cleanup, and then put the pier back in place, but leave the carpenter shop pier not rebuilt, leave that as open water. But to also then replace the marine walkways that service the marine rail. The marine railway is the launch facility, and that needs both an east and west side walkway to guide the ships in and out or on and off of the marine railway. So that's a major component that's included in this project. The fiscal impact, the budget is for 2015 and 2016 combined is about $7.6 million currently estimated for just the pier work. The cleanup work associated with that is in the range of $8 million, I believe, for this project, for the total project. So this proposal before you this evening then does complete the full design and permit and allows us to go out to bid this next year. We are currently, as I say, the JARPA was submitted in December. We're hoping for a 6-month minimum turnaround time, which means we would be bidding the project approximately June of this coming year and being under construction in the in-water work window, which is between August 1st of 15 and February of 2016. And the majority of the work would be done in that period. There would be a little holdover work potentially not being completed in that window that would have to be held over until the next in-water work window in 2016, August of 2016, and that would be some fender piling. But the important thing to keep in mind is that the pier would be basically functional, readily functional as it is today, but a new pier by June of 2016. Mm-hmm. So approximately 1 year from the bid, opening of the bid to the completion and usability by Puglia Shipyard of the pier. Are there any questions?
I have a couple questions. One on just a typo on the second page at the bottom of our packet there. It's December 8th, 2015. That's 2014.
That's correct.
The other question I had, the design money, what pot's the $487,000 money, what pot's that coming out of? That's not MODCA money, is it?
It's currently budgeted under the capital improvement budget number that's listed. It's a capital improvement budget, but
So it will be MODCA money? No, it's our money, yeah, okay.
it's our money. Well, it's currently our money, but at the end of the day, the pier and the cleanup dollars will come together, and some of it will be potentially some of it will be MODCA money on some of this project.
Right, thanks, John. I just wanted to clarify that last point. As John has mentioned, this is all part of the whole Harris Avenue Shipyard MODCA cleanup. This is the first chunk of work being moved forward. The Department of Ecology is planning on this being performed as an interim action under a agreed order. The commission was briefed on that at the last meeting. And we've talked to Ecology. They support all of the pier and Carpenter building demolition, the sediment cleanup in that footprint, and replacement of basically the functions of the pier and the waterway access piers as part of a MODCA cleanup. So it is grant eligible. So that's a good thing for us. Our work is cut out for us, so what we need to do is make sure that the legislature provides funding to Ecology's MODCA grant program so that they can, in fact, provide those MODCA funds to this project. But it has been identified as a grant-eligible piece of work by Ecology.
On the screen right now are the 3 cleanup areas that's part of this nationwide 38 permit. And they're all separated by type of cleanup. But you'll see basically the pier that's being replaced is in this area. The carpenter shop is right in this area. So there's then these other colored areas you see that are part of the cleanup. This area.
Will our tenant be able to continue, because the outer part of the pier, nothing's going to happen to that, correct?
Yes.
It's been rebuilt?
That's an excellent question, Commissioner, and the answer to that is we are providing a temporary access utility walkway that provides both foot access for workers and provides all the utilities required. There's a major power requirement, there's sanitary sewer and water and fire protection that will be installed in a temporary walkway shown here in yellow.
Does that float, John, or is that on pile?
Oh, it's on piling, right? It's going to be built on piling, and it's on the east side of the pier, and that allows the contractor then to come in from the west side and do all the demolition work for this project.
Is that going to be permanent piling there?
No, that's temporary. It's a temporary structure.
Going to drive piles and put a temporary walkway in?
That's correct.
Wow.
Yeah, the reason is there's major utilities that have to serve the outer pier, and the only way to get that in there is to provide something that's a major support structure that'll withstand a year's worth of storms and
Well, Neil leaves some heavy equipment out there. He doesn't even want to drive it back on that dock right now. He doesn't feel safe in doing it. He'll probably leave that out there to continue working?
Yes, that will be left out there. The plan is to keep the outer pier fully functional throughout the course of this project.
Wow.
So if I go back to this plan right here,
you'll see the cleanup areas, and in the cleanup areas, the first thing to be done is this temporary walkway, which goes right through here. But before we do that, we obviously have to clean up the area. So the area that's going to be cleaned up is the area you see in blue and green that's on the east side of the pier. If I can do this here. These areas here, this is all associated with the cleanup. So that stage 1 cleanup needs to be done first, and then the temporary walkway, the big red line I drew on there, needs to go in first, or second, and then third would be the demolition of the structures to be able to then perform the cleanup that's in the other areas of the site. It would be all these areas here then would get cleaned up. So once that's cleaned up, then the pier can go back in. And in order to do that, I think there was some question on possibly why we needed to relocate the marine railway guide walkway. Well, the reason is it's such a condensed site that in order to get construction barges, dredge barges, material barges staged in there, there's simply not enough room. So we have to move that structure. It's an old creosote timber structure, so we're taking it out as part of the project. Once the project is done, that will go back in as a new steel structure, as well as the pier is going to be, the carpenter shop pier is going to be demolished. And so there's another function of that, and there's a walkway on that side that I just threw in there that has to go back in as well. So there's a walkway on each side of the marine railway to guide the boats in and out. So all that is included in this permit.
Hey, Mike, a question for you, if I may. The state likes it when you pull out creosote timbers. Are we going to get any bump from them on some of this work?
Yes, absolutely, and you're correct. They do like that. One of the reasons they particularly like it at this site is that some of the contaminants of concern that we see in the water are directly related to degrading creosote structures. So the ecology looks at the removal of the old pier, the pilings under the Carpenter building, and the marine access walkway, all as source control measures under MOTCA. Okay. So they're going to help fund that too, and that will be part of this interim action. So
we get a little extra for those walkways that go along the marine railway.
Right.
Yeah, great. Okay.
Yeah, you see the plan before you on the screen now is the demolition plan, so that all will be removed. You see in the hash marks, as well as this walkway up here will all get removed once the phase 1 cleanup, or the stage 1 cleanup on the east side is done, and then the temporary utilities go back in. So we get the concrete pier fully functional again for utilities and for foot access, but they will be landlocked out there for sure, yeah.
All right, one last question, John. The Carpenter building, I'm assuming it has some historic value. Are we required, does state require us to take a look at that, do one of those historic assessments?
That's a great question, Commissioner. Yes, we have the scope in the project to do the Section 106 historic analysis, the Habs hair work on that building.
And when they do that, because I know in my work, oftentimes those buildings have pieces that you can use elsewhere on other historic structures. Do they look at the potential reuse for deconstruction and reuse of the materials in that?
I believe that's normally included in the Habs hair to look at what's reusable, what we can do to preserve the history of the building, and that can relate to artifacts or equipment and features, yes.
Sure. I know it's a wooden building which is built, in the style that I understand, which is like the Georgia Pacific buildings were dramatically more difficult to reuse. So, all right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All ready for a vote?
No, I am.
Yeah, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioners.
All right, anything further in new business, Dan?
No, just happy holidays and Merry Christmas
You practiced
to
yours?
my fellow commissioners and the staff.
Have you?
It's been a good year. Pardon me?
Have you practiced your
I have.
Okay, just checking.
So yesterday I found out that about 20% of the people in this world celebrate or could celebrate or should celebrate Christmas. So to those people, I say Merry Christmas. To the people who don't, I say, okay, I have to practice this. Happy Christmas Hanukkah. That one's a little more difficult. And to everybody else, you guys just have a great rest of your year, and we'll see you on January 6th. Oh, and one final thing. We didn't quite catch up on the Harcourt's timeline, so we're going to have something probably on January 6th finalized with those guys.
Yeah, we hope to have it on the agenda for the 20th, certainly in the first quarter of next year.
Okay.
Yeah, but January 20th is the date we're shooting for, and I believe we'll make that.
Okay, so we're just really just dialing in some final details now.
Yeah, right now it's documentation, it's exhibits, it's the technical details that are pretty boring but need to be done.
Okay.
Commissioners, I do have a new business item. As you know, the Horizon vessel, 650-foot-long vessel, broke free from her lines last Tuesday. I declared an emergency under my authority so that we could get some bidding out for that and do necessary repairs. We're not sure that that's the procedure we're going to have to use. Fred's looking into that. We had some other work being done at the shipping terminal, so we think we might just be able to amend that contract. But I wanted to give you that update that I did declare that emergency, and I have to inform you of that.
All right. All right. Nothing further?
Sure.
Any staff? Nothing? There's one. Matt, you're the only guy left out there. Oh, wait. I don't recognize this lady. All right. That's it. We're done for the year. Thank you, everybody.